right. So, we have discussed about few topics which was in news this week. The first was related to cyclones. Okay, most of these things we have discussed already in the class. Okay, tropical cyclone formation, temperate cyclone formation. Since we are talking here with the reference to India, so we have to focus on which cyclones. Which cyclone do we observe or experience in India? Tropical cyclone. So, recently if you look in the Bay of Bengal, we have witnessed a cyclone that is named as Montha. Naming process also we have discussed. It is the 13 countries of Indian Ocean region. Each of them submit a list of 30 names and then table by table, column by column you go there as such. So, why cyclone Montha? Also in the time when you have lower temperature, this winter season is because of increasing sea surface temperature as such. Okay. And one of the condition we have discussed is that for cyclone formation you require how much minimum? 27 above 27.5, 28 something like that. So, because of the climate change everywhere across the world, whether it is the Atlantic Ocean, North Atlantic, North Indian Ocean, we are experiencing a meteoric rise in the SST that has overall increased what you can call as the vulnerability toward cyclone formation. Okay. Importance is that we have to focus on what? Either early warning, because cyclone is something that you cannot stop, right. Only what you can do is prepare for the impact and minimize the losses. How you can minimize losses? If you have a well developed early warning system, so you can understand this and also evacuate people from the affected area as such. So, here we have to look at the conditions for cyclone formation. Again same thing, 5-6 condition we have discussed in class. One is sea surface temperature. First of all, tropical cyclone, they require which kind of surface? Only sea surface. Temperate cyclones can form over both land as well as sea. Tropical cyclone only develop over sea surface, and even at that time when temperature is somewhere about 26-27 degrees Celsius, somewhere in that range as such. Plus second, what do you require? Low pressure area, because what happens toward this low pressure, you have the convergence of wind from all the sides. These winds that converge, they move at such a high speed that Coriolis force start to act. That means other thing that we require here is what? Presence of Coriolis force. If the area of equator, if you look, we do not have cyclone formation even though the temperature is high. Why? Because Coriolis force is missing there. Why? Sin theta is 0, right, we have discussed. So, what we require is pre-existing low pressure. So, the winds can converge from all the direction. As the winds begin to converge toward this low pressure center, they begin to rotate, and while rotating they start to also what? Rise, because they are getting warmer. As they begin to rise up, they are carrying large volume moisture along with themselves, and that is why you have formation of what you can call as dense clouds. Outer part of cyclone, what will have? Heavy rainfall as such, and it is due to this region we can understand that the structure of cyclone, okay, if you look, it looks something like this that we have drawn in the class also. You have the convergence of wind in this low pressure area, then you have the rotation of wind, then you have the rise of wind. In this outer part, what you will have? The rain band region we have discussed, cloud formation, cumulonimbus cloud generally you will see forming, dense clouds, heavy rainfall you will observe. The central part is what you call as eye region. Surrounding part, what we have discussed, it is referred as eye wall. So, structure of cyclones, tropical cyclone look like this. You have the eye wall, around that you have the rain band region. Okay. So, these are the conditions. Now, in stages, if you look, very simple, same thing is given here. In first stage, briefly if you study, at the sea surface, what to require? High temperature. Okay, high temperature lead to what you can call as low pressure. Low pressure lead to what you can refer as surface convergence. Surface convergence, here air start to rise, because the temperature is higher, pressure is low. Air has start to rise, then further you have in the upper atmosphere. What is the other condition required? If you remember, in the upper atmosphere we need divergence. Surface level convergence, upper atmosphere divergence. And because of Coriolis force, what is happening? Air is rotating. As air rotates, it also becomes warm, it rises up like this. Here what do you have? Formation of clouds followed by rainfall as such. So, that is how simply we can explain. This is the stages and this is the steps how we can explain the formation of cyclone as such. Clear? So, revise again from the class notes also, simple to understand here. So, we are talking about this, that is how you have to link with the current affairs. because cyclones, they are continuously coming in news. So static part, conceptual part, we have to look from the class notes, and current affair based whatever information you come across, what kind of cyclone they are, okay, what is the wind velocity, which of the states or regions were affected by cyclones and all that, you can keep on adding in the same notes, not prepare separate notes. Okay, same notes, leave a space and add point from the current affair. Then we have to look at the measurement scale. This also we have discussed. In India, we have the department called as which organization? Indian Meteorological Department as such. So it classifies cyclone on the basis of wind velocity. We have discussed this in class. Wind velocity is considered for an average of 3 minutes. So you have various categories. The severest of these are what you can call as super cyclonic storm. That is when the wind velocity reaches what? More than 221 kilometers per hour. So this is something that we can refer as rarest type of cyclone. Last time India witnessed such cyclone in which year? I told you it is 2020. Cyclone Amphan was the last super cyclone. After that we have not seen any super cyclone. Most of the cyclones that we have witnessed in the recent time, they are either in the very severe category or severe cyclonic storm category as such. So this is already we have discussed in class. We have the datas, okay, datas of the wind speed and the relevant name used by IMD. Other country affected by cyclone is in North Atlantic, which is US. So US uses a scale. Okay, I am not sure if it is clear, but I will write here. Okay, the scale is referred as Saffir-Simpson scale. So name you have to keep in mind. The exact the points here you do not have to keep in mind because it is in US. But at least the name of scale is relevant from examination perspective. Question can be asked that Saffir-Simpson scale is used or is associated with which of the weather phenomena? It will be tropical cyclone. Also in US, you do not use the term cyclone. In North Atlantic, what is the term that we use? Hurricanes. Okay. In the Pacific Ocean near the coast of China and Japan, what do you use? Typhoons. So Saffir-Simpson scale, because it is used by US, it is measuring the speed of what? Winds in the hurricane as such. So here also look similar kind of color coding you will see, but differences are there in terms of the wind velocity, right? If you look at the maximum intensity of scale here, you have 5 category wise they classify. So category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, category 5. Here category 5 is equivalent to which storm in India? Super cyclonic storm, but difference you will see. Category 5 is when the velocity is what? More than equal to 252 kilometers per hour. Here what do we have? 221 km per hour. So differences you will see in typhoon scale also you have similar kind of differences. For typhoon we also use similar kind of scale. So category wise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is again factual information. You can take a look here. That is how we measure the cyclone as such, both in India and outside as such. Area around India which see cyclone formation is Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea. Now question can be asked, which of the region or the source region affect majority of Indian states? It is the Bay of Bengal, because you know the tropical cyclone always move from which direction to which direction? East to west, because they move under the influence of trade winds. So that is why majority of cyclone forming in Arabian Sea, except few, they move away from India, right? But the difference comes during the monsoon time, because during monsoon if you look, the wind direction reverses. So during monsoon time, what is the direction of wind over India? Like this. So suppose that a cyclone is forming in Arabian Sea. Now prevailing wind is like this. So where will they move? Toward India. So states such as Gujarat, Maharashtra, these are the states which get maximum impact because of cyclone as such, but only in the monsoon season. In post-monsoon, pre-monsoon, largely it is the Bay of Bengal that affect the cyclone, that affect the Indian coast as such. This already discussed. Naming is done by World Meteorological Organization. The process steps we have covered in the classes, where you have each of countries providing a list of name as such. Now, as far as the disaster management architecture is concerned, the nodal agency again for the cyclone is also as all other disasters. It is the National Disaster Management Authority, which is empowered as per which act? Disaster Management Act as such, right? So it is the major agency, nodal agency. It has focused on 3 things. How to manage it? Early warning, provide shelter in the coastal area where you cannot carry out immediate evacuation of so many people. So they should be provided shelter so they can be safe in coastal areas, and at the same time response has to be coordinated. Coordinated means all the stakeholders, all the agencies whether it is a central government agency, state government agency, district level agencies, and that is actually how the entire disaster management framework institutions is designed as well. NDMA is at the central level, further at the state what do you have? SDMA, further at district what do you have? DDMA. So this require a coordinated response as such, right? And that is how we can explain the disaster management architecture of India as such. So that is the naming of cyclone, or this process of formation of cyclone. Second we have is cloud seeding and Delhi. Both were in news recently, especially after Deepavali. We have seen that a lot of debate was going on, still it is going on, about the worsening air quality of Delhi as such. If you talk about AQI, we measure air quality on which scale? Called as AQI, Air Quality Index. If you look at value in Delhi, it is somewhere hovering between 300 to 500. You compare that with Bangalore, because this you can make a comparison. In Bangalore, in most of the time, it is between what? 50 to 80. So compare whatever air you are breathing. In Delhi, air quality is 10 times worse. Okay, 10 times more pollutant you have floating in the atmosphere as such. So it causes a lot of problems in breathing related problems, disorders we can talk about, people who are having this lung related issues, asthma and all. So that is why the Delhi government decided to tackle the problem. How? By using cloud seeding. Also briefly, maybe we have discussed in class, same thing we have discussed about winter smog, PM 2.5 smog, recurring western disturbances. Emission sources are what? Same, vehicles, stubble burning is considered as main culprit. Okay, when the farmers of Punjab, Haryana, okay, they are burning crops and all. In the last class also we have talked about that briefly, right? So stubble burning, industries you have that are emitting large amount of pollutant particle gases and all that. So basically it is in this background, the cloud seeding was attempted. So what is cloud seeding? This is what we have to focus upon. So as we know, if you talk about the process of rainfall, we have discussed this in the humidity and precipitation chapter. How does rainfall happens? First of all, the water vapor should rise from the surface. It should go in the upper part of atmosphere. Then in upper part of atmosphere, you have a lot of hygroscopic nuclei, okay, solid particles, dust particle, particulate matters which are suspended. And around these solid particles, what happen? The water condenses, vapor condenses into liquid. Then gradually they keep on growing in size. A time comes when the gravitational force pull all of them in the downward direction. They fall, which we see in the form of rainfall. This is the natural mechanism. If you have to create artificial rain, what is the term that you use? Cloud seeding. Seeding means you provide seed for the formation of cloud. How can you provide seed for the formation of cloud? By injecting such kind of hygroscopic particles in the atmosphere. If more hygroscopic particles are present in atmosphere, condensation will take place easily, okay, even at a relatively low level of moisture as such, and condensation will finally result into rainfall. So cloud seeding in simplest way we can say is the injection or spreading of particles. Which kind of particles? Silver iodide, potassium iodide, salt particles, dry ice. Okay, these are the particles which are spread in the atmosphere using various modes, such as aircraft can be used. Okay, you have flares that can be used, ground generators you have, they are throwing large volume of particles in the atmosphere, and then it is believed that water vapor will condense, rainfall will occur. The problem here, the goal here is to induce precipitation. Now why precipitation? Why rainfall? Simple. If there are large volume of pollutant in the atmosphere, if raindrop falls, what raindrop will do? Dissolve all the pollutants, clear the atmosphere from pollutants by bringing them where? On the ground. So what you will see? You will see improvement in the level of pollution, improvement in the air quality index as such. Okay, this is why cloud seeding is done, and this is why government of Delhi, okay, focused upon such kind of long-term solution, short-term solution you talk about. So trials done by Delhi government, a study was conducted by IIT Kanpur and all that. Multiple sorties were conducted. Okay, the injection of these particles were done as such. Overall, total budget of 34 crore, okay, was allocated for the cloud seeding purposes, and it was declared as also experiment by Ministry of Earth Sciences. Why? Because they declared this experiment, they will have less responsibility and accountability toward public as such. Okay, otherwise public can clearly claim that you spent 34 crore, it did not yield any result as such. So they can say that if it not get any result, at least we what? Learned something. Okay, that is why we are declaring it as experiment as such. So motive was air quality improvement, but we can see that it has completely, okay, failed, okay, to achieve its objective So the cloud seeding did not yield any result. Now why cloud seeding did not yield any result? Because cloud seeding not all the time can result in the rainfall, yield precipitation or rainfall. The reason is because what is the rainfall? Water vapor condensing into liquid form coming back on the ground. So first and primary condition is there should be presence of moisture content. If moisture is very low, no matter how much hygroscopic nuclei you inject in the atmosphere, there is no water vapor to condense around it. So that is one of the reason. In the winter time, what happens? Water vapor in the upper atmosphere is somewhere between 15 to 20%. Atmospheric humidity level we can talk about is between 15 to 20%. So that creates a challenges. Second, unfavorable meteorological window you have, because apart from that you talk about the wind. Wind play a very significant role. So why unfavorable? Because if we talk about the wind in India, in the winter around Delhi you have northeasterly winds. If suppose inject all the what you can call as seed particles in the atmosphere, they will not permanently remain, that they will not wait for the moisture to come collect so that rainfall can happen. If moisture is not able to in very quick time or very short time are able to condense, what will happen to these seeds? Along with wind they will be carried away. So again what will happen? In Delhi you will have less water vapor, less seeds, okay, or less hygroscopic nuclei. That is the other problem. Plus temperature relief only for 1 to 3 days, you will see from here. Difficulty attributing rain to seeding versus natural rain, high cost versus limited efficacy. These are the certain challenges that you have to see. How much? 34 crore, it is very big amount. And even suppose we were successful, let us suppose that we were able to we were able to conduct rain here. Most of the cases rainfall cannot go beyond 1 to 3 days as such. What will happen after 3 days? Again same situation. So can you do that on a frequent basis? No. First of all, you do not have capital, do not have money. Second of all, it is not a long term solution as such. This was something that we can say was nothing but a kind of political strategy adopted, that government is doing something for what? Something for the improving the air quality and all that. So cloud seeding is considered as a stopgap, not substitute for emission control. The only way how you are able to reduce pollution is by controlling the emission. Okay, that means we have to have a control over the vehicular emission, industrial emission, stubble burning that we see in Punjab and all that. That is the only long term solution. So integrated air quality management is something that we require. Integrated because again it is not only the Delhi itself which is creating all this pollution. Delhi is a victim. Pollution is also being, or what you can call as emission also is being done where? In the neighboring states. Okay, UP you have Haryana, Punjab and all that. That is why integrated approach is required. Okay, again question is about cost effectiveness, scientific backing and all that, whether we are just doing it for a political score or whether it was backed by science. So a lot of criticism we are seeing also in media about this particular step of government. Okay, so same thing we have, exact same thing that we have written here. That is a key takeaways basically we talk about briefly. What should be our focus? Emission control over technological fixes. Okay, and here you should basically, because this is very relevant for your syllabus, both in the environment as well as geography, questions in the mains prelims have been asked multiple times from that. This year itself or last year maybe in prelims question is about cloud seeding, that what are the particles we inject, this year. So what are the particles we inject in the cloud seeding? You have silver iodide, potassium iodide and few more things were given. So from where we can get inspiration? Beijing. If you go back in the early 2000s, Beijing is in exactly same position as Delhi today. Same level of air quality Beijing had. Today you go and check in mobile, air quality index of this Delhi is 300 to 400, same environment, same climate, Beijing has about 30 to 50. It has been able to reduce its pollution level by 10 to 20 times in last 1 decade. So what model we should adopt? Beijing model. If you want to know more detail about this, you can find a video I have made, I think a few months back. You will search by the term Beijing air pollution. Okay, I have explained that what are the strategy that China adopted to control the air pollution, how and why they were successful. So these are long term measures. China did not did it in like in 1 year or 2 years. They made proper 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan, and they properly executed and implemented those plans. That is why in the long term they are able to see result as such. Plus China has other advantage, they do not have to be accountable towards citizens. So government understand that whatever plan I have made, I will follow it no matter whatever people are feeling or saying about this. That is why also one reason is why they are successful to that extent. Right. So that's about the cloud seeding. Third is twin cyclonic threat, again related to cyclone itself. Twin cyclonic threat in the North Indian Ocean region, that is referring to both Bay of Bengal region as well as the Arabian Sea region. So in this particular month, in this particular season, we have seen cyclone originating in both of the sites. So cyclone Montha in Bay of Bengal plus depression like cyclones we have seen originating in the Arabian Sea. IMD has issued alert in both eastern part as well as the western part of the coast. And why we are talking about this? Because this is not a general or normal occurrence. These kind of twin cyclone at the same time in both the ocean or sea is kind of rare phenomena. So twin cyclones is a rare phenomena that is seen in the North Indian Ocean basin, and this is directly linked to what? Climate change as such. Okay, the global warming to large extent we can say is responsible, rising sea surface temperature to large extent we can say is responsible for the development of cyclone at the same time in both of the seas, Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. So there is very high stake, because you know that India has a huge coastline of roughly 7,500 kilometers. A large number of population, people of India are living in the coastal areas. A lot of big cities, okay, metropolitan cities like Mumbai you have, in Goa you have Chennai, West Bengal you have Kolkata. So large number of people are living in those metropolitan cities as such. So the risk factor for India is quite high. Okay, it is believed that if sea temperature increases by 2 degrees Celsius, the Bay of Bengal water volume will rise at least by 2 to 3 meter, and in that case 30 to 40% of Kolkata will be what? Will completely get inundated, submerged as such. So we lose large volume of land mass there. So that is why we have to be aware about this, and we have to take measures to action against this. Now meteorological context will look same thing. Bay of Bengal already discussed. Montha has formed around October 24 to 25. Arabian Sea around October 22. We have seen the development of depression here, and few weeks back also we have discussed about this, that how the cyclones are moving from Arabian Sea toward Gujarat and Maharashtra coast as such. As we have discussed in the first topic itself, what is the requirement for the tropical cyclone formation? 27 degrees Celsius temperature and higher than that. If you look, why cyclone are forming in both oceans? In the Bay of Bengal, what is the prevailing temperature? 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, very much conducive for cyclone formation. In the Arabian Sea, what do we have? Same range, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. This is also very unique case, because in Indian geography, when we talk about the climate of India, we will talk about a term that is referred as IOD, Indian Ocean Dipole, right? In Indian Ocean Dipole, what we see generally, that if you have higher temperature in the Western Indian Ocean, you have relatively lower temperature in the Eastern Indian Ocean. And if you have higher temperature in the Eastern Indian Ocean, at the same time you have a relatively lower temperature in the Western Indian Ocean. So generally this is a trend, we call it dipole. One side high temperature, the other side low temperature. If other side high temperature, different side will have low temperature. That means naturally in any one of the sea will be conducive for tropical cyclone formation. Because of climate change, this is something that we are witnessing shifting. Now what is the situation? You have positive here, or higher temperature here also, higher temperature here also. So there is a clear link with climate change. We do not understand it completely how it is going on, but we can see it is a anthropogenic factor that is at play here. So this is also we have to keep in mind. So meteorological context. Key hazards again related to cyclones we have discussed. What happens in cyclone? How or why are we getting affected by cyclone? First of all, damage occurs due to strong winds. Majority of cyclone, no matter which scale you are looking at, you have wind more than 100 kilometers per hour that generally flows as such. Second, because cyclone is strong winds, and at the same time it is associated with what? Very heavy to extremely heavy rainfall. So coastal areas get completely flooded as such. You have risk of what you can call as storm surge. What is a storm surge? Suppose this is the coastal areas, okay, this is the ocean or sea as such. So first of all, during cyclone, you have a strong wind movement. What is happening? The sea water is pushed continuously toward coast. So coastal areas get completely flooded as such. Other thing is, if cyclone is like this, in the center of cyclone, what kind of pressure you have? Low pressure. Due to low pressure, water level is kind of lifted up. Okay, so you have higher water level and wind is continuously pushing it, okay, toward the coast as such. So because of this, what we call this phenomena as a storm surge, that is the flooding of entire coastal areas when the cyclone makes, the term that we use here is landfall. Landfall is the exact place in the land where cyclone reaches first, okay, so landfall. Rough seas and squally winds. Squally winds means burst like wind you see. Okay, like you have burst of wind, then gradually wind weakens. Again burst of wind, again wind weakens as such. And the majority of the infrastructure that you have, agriculture that you are practicing, all of these are getting impacted. Why? Heavy rainfall, strong winds. That means we can say it has impact on what? Fishing. Impact on what? Agriculture. Impact on what? Industries. Okay, because in cyclonic season what will happen? Industries will not able to properly work because power cut and all this that will experience here. So these are the key hazards that we can talk about. Okay. Why twin events matter? Briefly if we talk about this, so this I told you same thing. Generally what do we have? Dipole activity, positive, negative, positive, negative. Here what do we have? Positive and positive as such. So this is clearly related to some sort of climate change. So basin dipole activity, that is where research should be focused upon. How climate change, how global warming is resulting in the weakening of dipole or weakening of Indian Ocean dipole is what we have to be focused upon. Also we can say that in the recent times we have seen enhanced convective activity. Convective activity means uprise of air. Along with the air what rises up? Moisture. So that is called as convective activity, and more water vapor is sent in the upper part of atmosphere. Okay, understand this. If the more water vapor is evaporating at the upper part of atmosphere, water vapor will condense. That means from vapor form to liquid form. Energy is released or absorbed? Released. The energy that is released will be absorbed by the surrounding air. Air will become warmer. Warm air will go further up. That means the intensity of cyclone will increase, because what is cyclone? Strong updraft, strong uprise of air. So more and more air rises because of what factor? Latent heat release. Why? Because enhanced convective activity as such. Okay, so this is what we have to keep in mind, and this all is because of the warming of Indian Ocean. The frequency and intensity, both as far as tropical cyclone is concerned, both seems to have increased in last 1 decade, and this is not only Indian Ocean phenomena. The recently research have been conducted in the Atlantic Ocean also, North Atlantic. We have seen increase in the both. What? Frequency means number of cyclones per year. Intensity means look at the category of the cyclone. What is the wind speed? What is the amount of rainfall that you observe here? So both we have seen increasing in the last 1 decade as such, and this all elevates what? The complexity that we'll have to face in managing this disaster in the coastal areas. Also, because if suppose only one part of India is affected by cyclone, you put your entire effort toward this coast. If you have cyclone forming at the same time in both coast, what is the problem? You have to focus simultaneously on multiple coasts as such. So threat will be intensified. That means your disaster effort should also what? Amplify in that nature. Okay. So you have to basically focus on disaster management in a better way. Policy implications, what do you have? Early warning, same thing. Interstate coordination and resource mobilization should be our policy focused area, so that we can tackle the menace of cyclones and such. Disaster management is the area which India still has not amplified to the extent that it should have done based on the vulnerabilities that it has toward disaster management. We talk about entire India, what do we have? All kind of disturbances India is prone to. Landslides, earthquake, okay, what do you have? Cyclones are there. Heavy rainfall, cloud bursts we can talk about. So due to this, there is a continuous requirement of updation, upgradation, okay, enhancement of disaster management efforts that we seem to be missing out here. Response is same. IMD is the one that was responsible for what? Monitoring and alert. Then what do we have? In the areas where cyclone has struck, people will be trapped here and there. Okay, so you need to carry out rescue and search operation, relief operations and all that. That is the responsibility of which agency? First primary agency is NDRF or SDRF, and then if further effort is required, further help is required, it is provided by Army, okay, Air Force, Army military wing, we can say any wing of the Army can provide help here. Coastal shelters, what do you have? Evacuation planning. Fishermen warning is most important, and that is why IMD continuously issues different type of alert, orange alert, red alert, yellow alert and all that. So based on that, local people can take their decision. This also we have discussed in class, that what does each of the alert mean as such. Okay, color coded warning we have talked about. The overall disaster management effort or response in India is multi-agency coordinated, where you have IMD, state government, NDMA, Ministry of Home Affairs is also involved, Prime Minister office is also involved, because who is the chairman of NDMA? Prime Minister. Okay, so PMO is involved here. Overall, however, there is a need for improved forecasting, modeling and public awareness as such. Okay, so that is how we can talk about this. Way forward, if you have to write like from the mains perspective, because that is generally question that is asked in mains. For example, they will not only ask about the challenges or the problems or issues. Generally, there is also focused upon what? Suggestive framework or suggestive measures as such. So what can be the way forward in conclusion? Strengthen first of all cyclone track modeling intensity production. Okay. Still many times what happen? Like IMD says that cyclone will make landfall at this particular city. Many times it misses that particular city. It goes and make landfall in some other city as such. So it is because of what? Error in the track modeling. Okay, how will cyclone move? Because cyclone is generating here in Bay of Bengal. It is following particular track as such. So whether it will hit Kolkata, whether it will hit Odisha, whether it will hit Andhra Pradesh, that we have to be more accurate about. Okay, so that we can ensure that disaster management effort is focused on those areas only. Enhance coastal infrastructure resilience, and we have to defend our coast from what? The storm surges. Like in Mumbai coast, you talk about, what do you have? You have seen hexagonal, pentagonal structures, rock structures, they are put along the coast. What is the purpose? They absorb the storm surge intensity, and the impact on the backward infrastructure or back infrastructure is relatively less as such. Okay, so that is something that we can talk about, we can discuss here. Like for example, naturally, we have discussed also what is the significance of coral reef. They also absorb majority of the intensity, okay, that you have from the cyclones and all. Expand multi-coast simultaneous threat readiness and integrate climate change impact in the disaster policy, because still today if we talk about disaster management effort of India is based on old data. If you look at the vulnerability mapping that is created, vulnerability map that is created, still it takes into account what? The older concepts, that only Bay of Bengal coast in this particular month is vulnerable as such. Now what we are seeing? The western coast, eastern coast, both becomes almost equally vulnerable. So this new information has to be integrated where? In the disaster policy. Then only we can take action at the ground. So that is the way forward and conclusion. Overall, what I can say, preparedness is protection. As far as disaster is concerned, we have to build resilience against twin cyclonic threat, and here two terms largely are used. You should be aware about this. I am sure you would have read about this also. One is called as adaptation, other is called as mitigation, right? So resilience relate to which factor? Adaptation. Adaptation means you cannot change the natural scenarios, natural hazard, natural disaster. Only you can enhance and increase your capacity to tackle them. That is adaptation. Mitigation is what? You are doing something so that the cyclone itself become weak, or the number or the intensity of cyclone reduces. So that is something that becomes quite challenging unless and until you directly attack the region behind. What is the region behind? Emission of greenhouse gases. So we should be reducing our greenhouse gas emission. As per the recent source, we have increased it, okay, in the last 1 decade. So it becomes quite challenging, mitigation. That is why focus more should be on adaptation measures. Next topic is related to migration. This is relevant for both human geography as well as this economic. Okay, human geography you have talked about a special chapter, you have migration chapter. So related to that, we have a route keep coming news every now and then, that is called as donkey route. Donkey route basically means, donkey means hopping. So you are not going from one place to other place directly. How we are going? Hopping from different places as such. That is why I call it donkey route, related or associated with which kind of migration? Illegal migration, largely from India to which kind of countries? American countries, sorry, North America, that US and Canada, and other Western countries. Europe also we see a lot of illegal migration. Cases we have seen. Why we are talking about this? Because last week itself, okay, a Haryana teen was killed in Guatemala. He was actually captured by the groups, we can say the organized crime groups operating in these areas, drug cartels you have operating in these areas. So they killed him, asked for money, okay, due to some reason money was not transferred or something happened, and he was killed as such. 50 plus youth from Haryana recently were identified and have been deported, especially after coming of Trump. You would see, or you would have heard in the initial page, that a lot of Indian illegal migrants were deported from India, and they were brought on the military plane in shackles and all that. So Amritsar, many flights have landed there. So this is the major issue that we have. ED, NIA have begun to crack down on those people because they are not going randomly. They are contacting some agents. These agents are based where? In India itself. These agents are taking lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and then they are sending them through their agents as such. So socio-economic risk, you have huge cost, debt, exploitation, all these results that we see here. Now this is largely the slang referring to which language or which region? Punjabi slang, that you have donkey hop from place to place as such. So illegal migration pathway is via Latin America, Central America to US. Basically what happens, okay, suppose that India you have somewhere here. So from India they will go to, like one major route is Dubai. Okay, you go to Dubai. From Dubai then you go to where? You go to some European countries, or from Dubai you can take a flight to African countries. From Africa then you take further flight, you go to South American countries as such. Many South American countries are visa free. Like for example here talk about Suriname, you have Guyana, you have Ecuador, you have. So there you can go without visa. That means there is no such check, intensive checks. Once you reach there, then gradually illegally via the land border, because entire South America and North America is connected. So illegally through agents, what do? They cross this. Now why it becomes life threatening? Because generally the people who are involved here, basically this is nothing but in security. I told you, we have talked about the case of human trafficking. So entire illegal migration is nothing but an example of human trafficking. Illegally they are moving humans from one place to other place. Now human trafficking, if you remember, we have discussed, it is an act of which kind of group? Organized crime. Organized crime do not have only one way of earning money. It is the same group which is involved in drug trafficking, right? So many times what happens, if they are not able to receive payment at the correct time, right time, what happens? These illegal migrants are nothing but a burden to them. Plus there is a risk of getting caught by the border guards if they are moving large number of people as such. So they think that it is better to kill them because they are burden, and then they go along with their own job, they carry out drug trafficking and all that kind of things. Okay, and this area you have a very well known area, you should know about this, called as Darien Gap. Okay, this is deadliest region that you have in the which country? Panama. Okay, Panama is where you have Darien Gap. It is a tract of dense forest. Okay, and this is something you have to understand. From here to here you have full-fledged highway, roadway transportation. From here to here you have full-fledged roadway and highway transportation. It is in this gap of Panama, Darien Gap, which is devoid of any infrastructure. That means if you have to move from here to here, everywhere here it is relatively safer because you're moving along the highways, you have development, people are continuously coming and going. This is the completely dense forest area, and there is no control of any government here. It is completely under the control of organized crime syndicate, drug cartels, mafia and all that. So obviously risk to life increases manifold. Okay, and that is why we are seeing killing here. So use of human smuggling networks, travel agents, hawala finance, something that we see. Plus the cost, you can see the people are so what you can call as irresponsible in nature that they are giving 30 to 60 lakh. Even we have 80, 90, 1 crore rupees. People are spending what for moving and migrating illegally to Western countries such as US, Canada and all that. Many times we have seen people who have even been successful in reaching here. They are again arrested by border guards. Next day they are deported back. So you have spent so much money. Okay, just for what? Visiting US, and also not that in a good way. Okay, you are being treated as a criminal there. Better you do some business here from this rupee, okay, from this money as such. But the problem is because of the attraction people have built in their mind because of the historical factors, historical reasons and such. In Punjab, many villages are there where if you have, or from your house, if someone is not living abroad in US and Canada, then no one is asking about you. Okay, so basically it is also a kind of social status, okay, elevation, way of elevating or increasing your social status. So border crossing, jungle trekking, extreme risk is associated here. And a few months, last year actually there was a case in Canada where you have a Gujarati couple. Two people are there, husband, wife, and they have a small children. So they all are trying to illegally migrate. Okay, children are not at fault. Who is at fault? Parents. So they were found buried inside snow because they're trying to cross a snow cover. Okay, you have thick snow cover, heavy snowfall is going on, and they're crossing by foot. Obviously, they'll not be able to make it. So many weeks later, their dead body was found in the snow cover as such. These are the kind of risk people are taking just to illegally migrate, so they can earn few more this US dollars and all. That is the problem. What is the motivation and push factor? Again, if you look, first of all, people who want to migrate, they have legal route. Problem is that legal route is much more complicated. You have to go appear interview, you need to have proper qualifications. Okay, so education skill requirement is high, and that is why people who cannot fit in this criteria, they take the other approach, that is of migrating illegally as such. Largely it is driven by which kind of aspiration? Economic aspiration, where you have the possibility or probability of better job, higher income abroad and such. Plus, as we discussed, social cultural factor is also at play. Many times the guardians, parents themselves, they push their children to migrate illegally. Okay, they are going to sell their entire land, okay, so that their children can go and settle abroad as such. So the prestige is associated with the migration, okay, living in US, Canada, abroad, and plus you have diaspora network also. And here we have seen actually the news report, I think from NDTV or someone, they stated that suppose they are talking about a family of migrant who have successfully illegally migrated there and they are living. Many times when they are talking to their parents or to the people in the villages, they paint very rosy picture. This might not be true. They might be working as a manual laborer here and there. They might be struggling to find work. But when they talk in the village, when they talk with their family, they portray that they are living a very luxurious, comfortable life. So this kind of wrong picture also attract what? Other youth member of the villages and all that. They are not aware of reality. So to some extent, we can say responsibility also is of diaspora. That means the people of Indian origin living abroad as such, who paint wrong picture, who give wrong idea about the life there. Debt investment we have seen, people are taking debt, they are selling land, they are putting their houses on the mortgage and all, and they are arranging fund to send their children outside, and to what? Basically to be deported back as a criminal, or many times people are dying here, okay, while crossing the border. So distress, unemployment, all these are also issues we can say to some extent is responsible. From India, you have largely three states we can say, which is witnessing the problem at disastrous scale, that is Punjab, Haryana and Gujarat. What is common? Diaspora networks, they have well developed, okay, well settled in these countries. So that is the agent. Risk, challenge and consequences, obviously understandable easily. What do we have? People have to face financial losses, physical danger we have discussed, legal immigration risk, detention, deportation, criminal record. Once you are illegally deported, now any scope of you going back is kind of not possible. Okay. However, we have seen cases where people again have attempted to illegally migrate. Once they were deported back, again they attempted to illegally migrate. So in the second time the person was killed, okay, here unfortunately as such. So that is the point. Social cost, family disruption, mental trauma, okay, stigma related to shame and all that. Governance related issue, what do we have? Smuggling networks are able to prosper. If there is a demand of illegal migrants, illegal migration, then only you will have the prosperity, this prevalence of illegal migration related gang and all that. Corruption is high, complicity also is seen here. Even in the case of recent war in Russia, we have seen many Indian people have got stuck there. Why? Because agents have promised that you will get 100,000 rupees or 200,000 rupees per month. You do not even have to go and fight in the front. You simply will provide support. How? Like by working as a cook, okay, or by doing some other work. Actually, when they were sent there, they were sent on the front line, okay, along the border. So many such videos are becoming viral as such. Okay, recently in Ukraine, one Gujarati person was caught and he stated the entire ordeal, okay, how he come to Russia, how Russian government sent him on the borderline, despite initially claim being that he will be not on the front line but will supporting from the rear and all. So that is the issue. Key statistic, if you look, a cost per migrant is 30 to 60 lakh, multiple border crossing required, 50 plus youths deported from Haryana via donkey route. These three states, Punjab, Haryana and Gujarat, three key states we have. So Latin America, Central America, these have emerged as a major pathway. Okay. Same critical challenges, okay, that we have discussed is again highlighted here. What is the way forward? What we can do? Strengthen legal migration pathways. Okay, that is again not again only can happen from the government of India's perspective. It has to be done from the other countries also. Like especially after coming of Trump, what we have seen, getting visa, American visa especially, has become quite difficult. Not only US, even if you look at the Canada, student visa was easily granted from Canada. Now we have seen 74% rejection rate. Out of the 5,000 people who applied for Canadian student visa, only 1,000 to 1,200 were approved. So that is the problem. Skill migration scheme. Regulate tracking of recruitment travel agent, because again here you have to tackle the agents. It is the travel agents, the Hawala agents, unless and until you crack down on them who are participating in this smuggling network, still people will be falling prey to these all. Awareness campaign has to be raised in vulnerable areas, especially Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat. Post-return support for deportees, rehabilitation, counseling, debt relief. What debt relief? If people are selling their entire home and farmland, what government will do? Okay. It is very, very difficult for them to again readjust, because whatever they had in India, they have sold it. So they have to start their life from scratch. They have nothing actually. If they are caught and illegally deported, if they are caught and they are deported back as such. So enhanced bilateral, multilateral coordination for safe migration and border enforcement. This is also something that you can do as such. Okay, but again, problem is that how will you ensure safe migration if government does not have control over the area itself? Darien Gap we talk about, no government has control over. So you cannot say and talk with certain government that you should do something, so that even if the people are trying to migrate illegally, they should be what? Should be able to pass safely as such. That is not possible in practicality. Right, so that is about the donkey route. Last topic we have is setting up an early warning system in the Himalayas. What are the unique challenges that we have to face? Early warning system we have discussed before also when we have talked about the landslide related issues in Himalayas. Himalayas in the recent time has become very prone to multiple disasters. What kind of disasters we are witnessing? GLOF, that is glacial lake outburst flow. When the lake, glacial lakes that you have, certain volume of water you have there, if there is a sudden heavy amount of snowfall or if there is an earthquake, what will happen? The dam can breach. Okay, basically the boundary of dam, this lake can breach, water can start to flow at a very fast rate. Landslides we have seen, cloudburst we have seen in the recent time, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and all that, right? So because of the increased intensity of disaster in Himalayas, especially after the October 2025 blizzard that we witnessed, where you have heavy snowfall, floods and all that, there is a report that was published which has emphasized on developing early warning system in Himalayas. Okay, why early warning system? If you look here, we know that along the slope of Himalayas you have multiple settlements, villages, towns, cities and all that, even in the valley areas, okay, along the slopes and all that. So suppose here you have a glacial lake, suddenly it bursted. What will happen? If you have early warning system, you can relay fast warning to all the people in these areas. They can go to a safer space, safer place and all that. Many times even we are able to know that there is a probability of GLOF. When exactly GLOF will occur? We know that there is a probability of landslide because of heavy rainfall. But where exactly, when exactly will landslide occur? We are not able to tell it. Why? Because EWS is not properly functioning in the Himalayas such. So that is why, okay, because of the multi-hazard nature that we have in the Himalayas, seismic threat, glacial threat, hydrometeorological threat, landslide related threat, there is an urgent requirement to develop and set up EWS in the Himalayas such. However, it is not so easy. Why it is not so easy? Because we have challenges. What kind of challenges? First challenge is terrain itself is a big challenge, right? Himalayas, first of all, if you look, I told you that the southern slope of Himalaya is what? Very, very steep in nature. So terrain is very rugged, steep slopes you have. Plus within the mountain ranges you have deep gorges, which is also inaccessible, especially during the winters and all that. Okay, so that is the problem. Even if you put some EWS system, you will not be able to gather and collect data from those systems because accessibility is very, very limited, especially during the winter season. Other is, even if you put some system, EWS system, here what we are witnessing? Extreme climate. Okay, temperature is in -30, -40s. In the altitude wise, what do you have? High altitude. So because of this installation of sensors, electrical equipment, electronic equipment, there is a very high possibility of they getting malfunction and all. So maintenance becomes the biggest issue. You have put sensor today, winter season came, they became malfunction, okay, or they actually malfunction. Now we'll have to wait till next summer. Then only you can access them. So the entire cost of putting or setting up EWS has gone in vain. Okay, that is the other challenge. Other is also government do not worry about that area much because population wise they have a sparse population, right? Settlement is kind of scattered nature, and because of this also many times you also depend on human means intelligence or information from human sources. So it again become difficult because population is very, very low, sparse. Okay, so human also are not able to relay information. Data collection becomes very, very difficult in nature as such. Okay, infrastructure gaps obviously we have because power supply, connectivity, network coverage, all these are still missing from major part of Himalayas. Plus it is not only that Himalaya is steep and rugged and difficult terrain, it is also the extent of Himalayas that pose a challenge. Okay, if you look at the western end to the eastern end, the total length is somewhere about 2,400 kilometers, scattered across multiple states and union territories. So you need to have some sort of coordination, okay, interlinkages and all that. That also is quite a challenge in itself. Okay. Then apart from that also, if you look here, this is the scene from the Mandakini flood that we have seen in the Himalayas. Okay, you can see that this entire area is very well known tourist destination. Okay, a lot of people, thousands of devotees, they go here all the time, and you can see what is the situation. Why? Because cloudburst took place in the upper slope of Himalayas. There is a sudden surge of water volume in the rivers, and the entire area is basically what, getting completely inundated as such. Okay, so same thing we are writing here. Limited real-time monitoring station, high risk Himalayan lakes and slope, that is where we can put. Poor connectivity telecom infrastructure is the problem. That is why even if in the upper slope, suppose that you are able to understand that this kind of disaster is going to take place, if the connectivity is missing or telecom infrastructure is missing, how will you inform to the local population? There is only one thing, that is satellite communication, which again is expensive in nature, and you cannot put everywhere along the Himalaya. So cost or capital itself is one of the limiting factor here, where government is not trying to do it. Other political problem also you have. Suppose that today they put this in the Himachal Pradesh, next day you have the disaster in Uttarakhand. Who will people blame? The central government. Why? Because state government will simply say the central government only put this in the Himachal Pradesh, they ignored Uttarakhand, right? If they put in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, then you will have the Assam, you will have Sikkim, right? You will have the Arunachal Pradesh. So unless and until you first of all plan that this much capital required to ensure that in all the vulnerable areas of Himalayas you are able to put early warning system, government is not risking to put it in certain places only. Only pilot projects you will see being commissioned here and there as such. Okay, actually implementation becomes quite difficult. So political things taken into account. Compatibility, same thing, compatibility and cost issue plus data integration with remote sensing and all that we have to do. Institutional and governance challenges also you have, because which agency will coordinate this entire effort and work? Many times due to the overlapping mandate you have between IMD, NDMA, SDMA, they keep on shifting the blame from one to other as such. SDMA will say that it is a job of NDMA, NDMA will say that NIDMA has not given us approval, right? So a lot of things, these things are there. Funding maintenance, same thing, it becomes an issue. Community engagement gap you have because local populations are not trained. The first thing we should do is to create awareness and ensure training of local population, rather than trying to find an expensive or what you can call as extremely costly technological solution. We should first focus on whatever is in our hand, and these are local populations. So we should try to collect data, we should try to bring them under the approach of disaster management, under the approach of awareness generation and all that. Cross-border co-basin coordination also becomes challenging, because we know that Pakistan is not China, if we talk about, they are many times not willing to share hydrological data. So many times we are caught off guard, because what is the volume of water in the Brahmaputra river we are not able to know, the water volume in the Satluj river we are not able to know, Indus river we are not able to know. So unless and until there is a focus on cross-border and co-basin coordination, okay, we are not able to use it to our best level. So land use settlement regulation, that also is something weak, because it is the irregular construction. You can say that the construction which is without approval is also a major challenge, because it obstructs the path of river flow, water flow and all that. Okay, so NDMA, you have Indian Space Research Organization, plus critical glacial lakes should be identified. In Nepal they have done it. They have basically recorded all the glacial lakes which might be prone to glow-like event. Same thing we should do where in the India itself, right? Multi-hazard early warning action plans, indigenous technology development. Okay, so these are the points that you can mention. Okay, overall again challenges are, if you revise, sum it up, what are the challenges in installing EWS in Himalayas? Terrain is a big challenge. The cost of technology and maintenance of technology is a big challenge. Governance related aspect, because you have overlapping mandate of multiple organizations and such. Coordination between the state government as well as countries across, that is challenge. What is the solution? Indigenous technology, that is based on community training and integration of the effort as such. Impact will be what? Again here we have to focus on resilience. Okay, resilience of people against disaster by saving number of lives and by also focusing upon sustainable development. We should not give the what you can call as the approval for developing resorts, okay, restaurants that you have, or hotels and all that in the disaster prone areas. There should be a clear accountability for that, right? If you look at the few questions, the term donkey route, simple. What is the question? What is the correct option? B. Okay, illegal human migration route from India through multiple third countries to reach Western nation. Okay, second is setting up an EWS in the Himalayan region faces unique challenges primarily because of what is the correct option? A. Okay, 1 and 2. Simple. Okay, coordination is missing. Consider the following with reference to tropical cyclone formation. What is the correct option? What is the correct option? A, 1 and 2. Saffir-Simpson scale is used in which ocean? Which ocean? Pacific. Atlantic Ocean. Okay, North Atlantic. In the context of recent discussion related to cloud seeding, which of the following statement is correct? Silver chloride particle induced rainfall. Effectiveness of cloud seeding depends on the presence of sufficient moisture, suitable cloud types. Cloud seeding can be used for both rainfall enhancement and hail suppression. True or which of these are correct? Hmm? 1 and 2. Why? 3 also. Rainfall enhancement as well as hail suppression you can do. What is hail? You have the water droplets accumulating continuously in the atmosphere and converting into which form? Solid form. So if you are putting more and more, what you can call as rainfall enhancer, okay, that means what will happen? They will be able to come down fast as such. Why? Because the size of droplet will become bigger, right? So hail suppression, we have seen that earlier time also. If you look at the significance here, which is the most important one, directly linked to your syllabus, what do we have? Cloud seeding. Okay, so you have to understand the concept also. Both in prelims, mains, we have seen questions being asked from here. Reasons behind cloud seeding, why we do cloud seeding, the successful or the failed example of this we have to collect at the international level. Plus it is linked with what? Disaster management also. Cyclones, we have two topics. One is how do cyclones form, other is the twin threat from Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. Collectively we can say this also is the very important concept because directly linked to your syllabus as such. You have to prepare these topics from both perspective, prelims perspective, right, as well as mains perspective. We have seen questions also. They have asked question related to what? Naming of cyclone, how cyclones are named across the world and all that. EWS in Himalaya is not that important. Question can be asked from the mains perspective and also in science and technology. You can use this as a pointer and talk about the development we have seen in the last couple of decades or couple of years and all that. And donkey route, okay, again direct questions can be asked because of its relevance in human geography in the migration chapter. So migration related topic, you can use it either as a pointer or because it is coming in news continuously, direct questions might also be asked from here. Okay, that what is donkey route, explain the repercussions of using donkey route or the challenges that people are facing. Right? So that is